All right, so now that we've spent time explaining the why, now let's talk some more about the what, of what we've seen God do over these last 15 years. We started back in January of 2009, and we started at the Fountain Inn Activity Center. And we had just a simple mission statement that you've heard about. And to be honest, we were shocked that people showed up when we had just kind of cast this vision to see our city transform, and the idea that we create a church for unchurched people. So that activity center actually, we outgrew it within a few months due to the fact that we had so many young families coming in, so many kids. So our very first Easter was over on Frontage Road across from the highway there, what we call the old Bilo. And that would become our home for the next 5 years. And so with that 20,000 square feet, we did lots of community events. We did lots of worship services. We saw people get baptized. We did weddings there. We did all kinds of things in that space. Also during that space that we saw God moving in that we started the Haiti Gospel Fund. We became a partner with Hope Vision soon after the earthquake in 2010. And in that, we began to partner with Pastor Andy in Port Bay, Haiti. And we began to send teams, and we began to plant churches and to evangelize the countryside and the city, and helping Pastor Andy take care of 40 abandoned and orphaned children there. And so we've been able to see that grow over the years to where we've been able to build an entire new orphanage and working on schools and continue to plant more and more churches there. Also, Capstone cast a vision of what does it look like not just to care for the current generation, but the next generation. And so we dreamed up this idea of creating a 501c3 called the Fountain Inn Kid Enrichment Center, or like we like to call FIKE. And this was just a time where kids were able to come from across the street at Fountain Inn Elementary and were able to do their homework, able to grab a snack, able to have leadership lessons and be discipled and be mentored by our community. We've also, in that time, were able to plant a church in Clinton, Heritage Fellowship, and with a vision that we wanted to be a church plan that would plant more churches. In 2014, Capstone began praying for a 100-year-old church in our city called Fairview Street Baptist Church. And as we began to do that, they were praying for God to do a miracle, and we were just praying for God to show up for our Fairview Street family. And in September of 2014, we learned that we would become that answered prayer, that Fairview Street Baptist Church and Capstone Church would merge together. The way that we said it was as two families coming together under the banner of Capstone, under the roof of Fairview Street. So in 2014, we moved here to 601 Fairview Street, our current campus. And we began to see God do many, many great things here through the sacrifice of our Fairview Street family. And we told them, your church is not dying, that we are standing on your shoulders. You're just simply passing the baton on to the next generation as we continue to work together to reach our city. In that, we began to see this campus transformed. We did an initial renovation here to update it as we talk about being relevant. So we wanted to create a place that looked relevant as people came in and go, this isn't what I thought church should look like, or remember what it looked like. And so we began that in 2014. Then in 2017, we had grown to a space where we needed more kids space. And so we did our first addition here that created our Capstone Kids lobby, created a new 2,500 square foot addition for our camp rockers to be able to have a space for them. And we were able to do that, pay that off in 2 years, and then began to set up for what God was going to be doing next here on our campus. In 2022, God really put on our heart that it was now time to continue to advance His kingdom. And that's what we called this next phase that we began to work on, was advance the kingdom. And so we began to see that we were outgrowing our sanctuary. Our kids space was continuing to grow. And we didn't ask, hey, what does our church need? And then how can our community use it? We said, what does our community need? And then how can Capstone use it? And so with that mentality, we began to think and pray and ask around what needed to happen. So instead of holding up binoculars looking at the issues that needed to be fixed in our community, we held up a mirror. We began to say, well, what do we have? What can we invest in our community and make it better, to bring the kingdom? And so when we began to think about that, our desire was to establish a hub that brings the light of Christ within reach of every person in Fountain Inn and beyond. The idea that we would add on, but it wasn't that we just add on a sanctuary, but that we would add on a gym. That we would be able to use it on Sunday mornings, but throughout the rest of the week, it would be used by recreation. It would be used by our city. It would be used for a place for the hurting, as a refuge for the needy, building blocks in the community to really be light in the darkness. Whether through recreation or through the vision of maybe starting a coffee shop or creating green space for people to spend time with their family, or even a community playground. The idea that we would expand our campus here at 61 Fairview Street, not to be a church, but really with the mentality of a community center that a church would meet in. And we really have so many more stories that we could tell you of life change, and that churches that we've been able to plant, the ways that God has worked and done only what He can do. But in this short little video, hopefully you've been able to see that, man, we like to step out in faith. We like to do things here where failure is certain unless God steps in. And so as you hear that story, we hope that you're getting excited. We hope that you're getting excited about what God's been doing in and through Capstone. But the fact is that we believe God isn't done yet. And so we hope that as you've heard our story, that it would be something that you too would begin to consider, hey, how can I be a part of that story as well?